Foodshed Capital was started to really address the issue of lack of access to good food, and it starts at the producer level. Our mission is really to try to help support a resilient and sustainable local food system by providing capital to food producers who have difficulty accessing capital through traditional means, particularly limited resource farmers, socially disadvantaged farmers. Until we are able to support these producers, they're going to be at a severe disadvantage to the industrial food system. We saw in this past year with the outset of COVID-19, where the food system just virtually fell apart, and grocery store shelves were bare and people were panicking, in addition to buying up lots of toilet paper, buying up lots of chicken, and things like that, because there was this scarcity mentality, and that's really what our food system is built upon. So what we are really trying to do is emphasize the essential need for a resilient and adaptable local food system, and providing capital to support that is what we do.
As it is evolving, the original intent or I guess vision of the Good Food Fund is definitely an overview of thinking about not just food system, the food system value chain, but in particular, farming systems viability, healthy food access for sure, sustainability both economically and environmentally, and then I think all that can be summed up into just health and wealth equity, and that requires a lot of consideration of other things beyond the food system, which is part of why there is such a diverse network of stakeholders, but to really understand that at the center of how to change that, how to approach that with a systems thinking view, we need to get down to the granular level of thinking about what are the financial resources that are there or are not there.
I think that for VFAIF to partner with community development financial institutions, it's really because we share a similar goal, a similar passion, and that is something that goes beyond the bottom line in traditional lending. So we're not looking at just what's the ROI going to be, how much money is this going to make for us? We're looking at, is this going to build community wealth? Is this going to increase health equity? Are we really going to put money in the hands of people who have not had that before? And because VFAIF was built on equitable food-oriented development, of which community wealth building is one of the main tenets, I think that that's where the overlap is in our Venn diagram. When we consider VFAIF and the technical assistance, and then bringing in the Good Food Fund and all that we're able to offer as this robust support system for people who are really trying to make their communities better, that's the innovation.
I think something we try to incorporate in our work quite a bit, and that's really trying to sort of disrupt the current system that's out there. When you really look at, kind of getting back to the beginning of this discussion and what creates the impediments for people, the way that we have created this finance system in this country, it's not accessible to a lot of people, and it's extractive. I mean, just like the food system itself, the finance system is extractive, and particularly for people of color who have a legacy of oppression in agriculture in this country, just trying to continue down this path of an extractive system that, threatens to take assets away when things go wrong is not solving any problems. And so where I think VFAIF is so important, and I think in many ways unique, is that it's creating a more accessible grant program, because I know that USDA is a nightmare for a lot of people. It just is. And so creating this grant program that's accessible and is not returnable capital is foundational, because it just frees people, I think, up more to be able to take risks, do what they want to do, and then by collaborating hopefully with CDFIs like ours, who also can be maybe a little bit more innovative in the way that we deliver capital. That's what we're trying to do, again, is to sort of break away from these extractive practices that are just so accepted in the financing industry, even in amongst CDFIs, where there's maybe a tendency to be, to be scared of risk and to do things more like banks. For the food system, it's going to be very difficult to ever make change without thinking outside the box and really trying to disrupt the current system that's out there.
The food system is called a system for a reason, and the approach to solutions must also be systematic. And that's not going to happen in silos or solo. It's going to require the collective effort of all of us, going back to that kind of what our lanes are, showing how each of us independently are able to provide the services and kind of rise to the need of our communities, but as well together, how we're able to be that much more formidable, in the interest of improving the food system. And I think we're not entirely there yet, but that's definitely on the horizon. Hopefully that's something, is what we're able to achieve with the Good Food Fund.
Yeah, I mean, I think hopefully this conversation can, elevate the issue with funders. And I think you touched on that, and that's so critical that funders recognize the need to really do things differently. This is something that we are trying to be better at vocalizing with funders and saying there's, an increased interest in supporting, BIPOC farmers and Black and brown owned businesses, and that's great. But what we always say is, okay, if you're going to support us and help us support these businesses, you need to be willing to think differently. You need to be willing to forego the more traditional and accepted practices around lending money and try to look at different approaches.